If you have been following me online, you know I love vision boards. I even made a vision board workshop. Or maybe you're just finding me and this is your first time watching a video. I love vision boards. I've been using them for years. The thing with vision boards though, is there's this concept that I've come across in a lot of workshops and my readings and things like that. And you may have heard it online from other people, and it's called clearing the shelf. Basically the concept is that like you have a shelf or you have a closet, like whatever you want to use, and there's a lot of junk in there and there's a lot of stuff in there and there's clothes you don't wear and there's items maybe you've bought and you don't want to throw away because of nostalgia or because it costs a lot of money, or you spent a lot of time on it, or you want to lose weight and fit into it again, or it reminds you of like better times, or it was a family member's and they passed it down, whatever. But the thing is that sometimes when you have all that stuff in the closet, you have no room for new stuff. Or when you have all those like knickknacks on the shelf, or those books that you've read like a couple of times, or you've been like, I don't know, carrying around for 10 years and you've moved 3 times and you've never even read, you can't make room for new stuff, right? So there's this concept called clearing the shelf, which is basically like a metaphorical concept, and it refers to letting things go, whether because of nostalgia or because you've been holding on for them for too long, or you've just been afraid to let them go. And these things are like no longer serving you and they're not adding to your life, but they're still taking up space and they're taking up room in your life. So basically you let them go to make space for new things. And that's where this concept of like an unvision board and breaking up with yourself comes in. And this year, for the first time, I made something called an unvision board. And I'm gonna like share mine with you at the end of this video. So if you stay tuned, and I'm also gonna give you like a ton of prompts, and I'm gonna give you things that you can use to kind of help you figure this out and questions to ask yourself and whatnot. And it's all going to be in this video, and the things that like worked for me. But the thing is that you kind of have to figure out like what you don't want to be anymore sometimes. And for some people, right? Or in certain aspects and certain times in our lives, you kind of have to figure out like what you don't want to be anymore and what you're kind of fed up with. And it's sometimes like a boyfriend in my situation, you got to like break up with yourself a few times, right? And you got to kind of be like, yeah, we're done. Or you're like, you know, let me try this again. Let me see, you know, maybe he's changed. And it's like, nah, he hasn't. We can go romanticize this all we want, but this is like not good for us anymore. You kind of have to do that with yourself sometimes. And I've had to like break up with my old self like multiple times throughout the years. I've had to do it at a lot of points in my life. You know, you grow, you change, you become different, you want different things for yourself. You know your bad habits are holding you back. You're doing them because it's comfortable. You know, like people in your life isn't good for you, or at that point in your life, they're not good for you and they're not like helping you be the best, or they're not like allowing you to move forward and concentrate on whether it's school or work or a project, because, you know, they want you to hang out, or they want you out drinking all night. You know, they want you kind of like blowing off work or whatever it is, whatever the case. Before I kind of like, I guess, explain all this, you got to know what a vision board is, and you got to know what like manifesting is, or intention setting, or goal setting, like whatever you want to call it. And that's when you visualize your goals and your aspirations and the things you truly want by making like lists or word lists or a collage of images to help you kind of focus and bring this into the forefront of your mind and make it present and to make it very in your world and have a constant reminder. I did a podcast episode, if you want to listen to it and you want to get deep on it, about the reticular activating system of the brain, and which is a part of the brain in the brain stem that kind of the reason why like when you'll be in a crowd, like say Times Square, and it'll be super loud and there'll be buses and cabs and noise and people and all the stuff going on, and someone can like scream your name and you're like, yeah, that's me. And like you can hear it in this big crowd because you've kind of trained through the reticular activating system and the subconscious of your mind. You've trained them to understand that hearing your name is an important thing and it's something that you need to pay attention to. And that's kind of similar to what vision boarding does, and this kind of like idea of making these collages or having this board that you look at every day or you revisit frequently. It kind of lets the reticular activating system alert the subconscious that these things are important. So it may be why you put down on your vision board, for me, like a Rolex watch or maybe a vacation to Italy. And then I keep kind of seeing those things. Some people will say, oh, it's a coincidence. Other people will say it's the universe sending me signs. Other people will be like, that's the reticular activating system. You told your brain it's important. So your brain is now telling your conscious mind that is important, and it's kind of putting it into the conscious. Hope I'm explaining all that right. I don't have like my science notes on me because like brain's pretty, it's a lot, you know? So I want to make sure I'm getting it all right. You know, someone like me will be like, it's all three, you know, a little coincidence, a little universe talking to me, and a little bit of science. So that's what we got with that. So that's what vision boards are, and that's what all that stuff is. And an unvision board would basically be like you saying, I'm going to make a board and I'm going to make a collage of all the things that I don't want to be anymore. And the easiest way to do this is to kind of like think about like your relationship or a partner or even a job. And you can kind of say, these are the things I don't want in my relationship. These are the things I don't want from my partner. I don't want a long distance relationship. I don't want somebody who, you know, doesn't have any direction or doesn't have a job or doesn't have any hobbies hobbies or doesn't have any friends. That's a big thing. A lot of my friends, that's a big thing for a lot of them now with dating. They're like, if the guy doesn't have a good friendship circle or like their own support that they can kind of like bounce stuff up, have someone to kind of like bounce. Like, I don't want to basically be his therapist and his best friend. I want him to have a best friend and someone he can go talk to and hang out with and have his own life kind of thing. So whatever, that's just like a total side note. There's nothing to do with this. These Unvision boards, you basically put down all of the things that you don't want for yourself. And you say, I don't want to act like this anymore. I don't want to react like this anymore. I don't want to dress like this anymore. I don't want to have a career like this anymore. I don't want to work full-time anymore. Maybe I want to freelance. Again, stay in the don't, because it's easier for us sometimes to figure out what we don't want than what we do want. And this is really like significant when it comes to our destinies or being like, what do I want to do with my life? Or what direction do I want to go in? Or where do I want to go now from here? It's a lot easier to figure these things out once you kind of know what you don't want. And that's been the case for me. And that's why I'm sharing all of this. You kind of ask yourself questions like the following, and I will give you some of the questions that I have. You can ask yourself, what habits or behaviors do I want to let go of? What negative self-talk or beliefs do I want to release? What relationships or connections no longer serve me? I have a couple more questions that I'll kind of get into, but what this kind of clearing the shelf does, or this like kind of purging of all the things that you don't want does, is it creates space for growth, it creates space for change, and it creates space for new opportunities. And it allows you to kind of like open yourself up more to a lot more abundance, a lot more joy, and just a lot more things in life, because it's like you're cleaning out that closet and you're being like, okay, we got room now for like new stuff. One of the biggest things is it gives you a lot of introspection. It allows you to really like look at yourself and really deep dive and be like, what don't I like about myself anymore? Like, what do I want to like break up with? What do I want to change? And I know like saying breaking up with yourself is like kind of harsh, but it's like sometimes you got to be a little like I had someone the other day kind of say to me, like, sometimes with your delivery, you're a little harsh, but it's like, that's what works for me. I've created a lot of compassion for myself in my life. I've created a lot of space for myself. Like even last year, I kind of like stopped watching what I was eating and I stopped working out because I really didn't have the mental bandwidth for it. And I like talked a lot about this on my podcast, and I just didn't have the bandwidth for it. Like I didn't have the bandwidth to, like meal prep and to just be like, oh yeah, that's probably not the best food choice right now, but it's like, I kind of want to eat that. And I just don't want to have like another responsibility. Like I was going through enough with like the pandemic and PTSD and working through some things. And I was just like, I really just don't have it in me to like count calories or macros or like the stuff that I had, or intermittent fast and like intuitive eat. Like I don't want to ask myself right now, even though this is like my thing, right? And what I've been doing for years, I was just like, I don't have the space for this right now. And so I gave myself a lot of compassion and I gave myself a lot of space to kind of come undone in that area for myself and kind of have a total reset, which I did. And then when the new year came on, I said, I'm going to be tough on myself. And I'm kind of like, no, now you got to work out. Now you got to get back on it. Now you got to get back on the grind. But again, like I kind of experiment with myself and I experiment with life and I know me. And I know I kind of got to like really go out a little bit and kind of get messy before I can kind of like reel it back in and pull it back in. So I can say to myself, well, you were there, let's pull back. And again, that's my own stuff. And with my therapist, you got to do what's right for you. Yeah, this video is a little bit more tough love and it is a little bit more like, there are plenty of other people on the internet doing a lot of other things. But again, this is what's worked for me. And so I'm sharing this. This introspection can kind of help you figure out greater clarity. It can help you figure out greater purpose. And it kind of helps you focus on and get rid of the BS. It lets you get rid of your own BS. And it lets you focus on like what's really important to you. Because if like you're like, I don't want this anymore, I don't want to do this anymore, that then kind of help you lead and trickle into like what you do want and what you're like, oh, well, if I know that I don't want to wake up every morning and be scrambling before I go to work, okay, well, guess what? You need to put your clothes out at night. You need to plan your outfits. You need to have your food ready in the morning. Maybe you got to like shower at night and wash your hair at night and then do like a quick refresh shower in the morning. Or maybe like you got to stop doing like a 12-step skincare routine, Donna, at like, 5 o'clock in the morning. Like maybe we like dial it back and we do that on our days off and we come up with something a little bit more simple. Or even in my case, now I've been doing like half my skincare routine before I go to work. And then I bring like 2 or 3 creams with me and I do them like when I get to work. So you've got to like figure out these things. So we're talking like emotional attachments. We're talking physical attachments. We're talking behavioral attachments. You get a deeper understanding of like your own values and your own priorities. It helps you like figure out areas in your life where you need to shift your focus, also where maybe you need to shift your energy. Because it's like if you're a totally reactive person, you can kind of say to yourself, well, I don't want to act like that anymore. I don't want to become so defensive. I don't want to become so, I don't know, whatever, insert whatever word there. So how do I not be like that? Or even better, like, why am I doing that? First off, before you can answer the how do we not act like that anymore? Like, why am I becoming so defensive? Why am I becoming so emotional over this? Is there something there that I haven't dealt with yet? Or, why am I so jealous about this or that? All of these things you kind of got to figure out and ask yourself these questions. And the other thing that kind of comes with this is you get mindfulness, because you're becoming mindful of these things that are kind of like upsetting you or bringing out like parts of you that you no longer want anymore. And it also makes you more mindful of like how you've grown and like how you've changed. It's crazy because like before the pandemic, I really, really wanted to open a shop in New York City. I wanted something in the restaurant industry. I wanted it so badly. Like I was working so hard towards it. Like so many people in my life, like even got attached to this, people on the internet, people I don't know, my peripherals, and everybody was like so on board and like really rooting for me. And then post-pandemic, I'm just like, if that's what the hell this is, I don't even know, but whatever we're in now, I'm just kind of like, I don't want that. Like, I don't want to be in one place all day. I love food and it's great. And maybe at another point in my life, like I could do that. But like right now, I don't want that. I want a little bit more freedom to kind of move and test things out and, not have like a rent of a shop and employees and buy all this equipment and all the things like you would need for a pizza shop in New York City, right? Like, which is what I was going after before the pandemic. And it's like, I don't want that responsibility right now. Down the road, who knows? Maybe, hopefully, and I do still want to do something with or involving pizza, but not in that capacity right now, because I know right now that's not who I am. It took a lot for me to like clear the shelf of that because so many people were tied into it. I had been like perfecting recipes and dough recipes and bringing them to work and letting nurses try them. And my friends were so into it. And we would go to pizza shops all the time to kind of like test out other pizza places and kind of figure out what was going on and paying attention to like, what was happening in that industry. It was a lot to come to the mindfulness to be like, I'm kind of over this, but also at the same time to kind of be okay with being like, well, what are people going to think? And the answer is at the end of the day, like we think people are thinking a lot more about us than they actually are. So like that's like first thing and that's baseline. But like if I disappointed some people, what am I going to do? I can't move forward with something because like my friends were into it. I had done it for 2 or 3 years and it's like what everybody's going to think. No, I can't. I got to do at the end of the day what's going to make me happy. And so I had to become mindful of that and like why I might not have been releasing that or being so ready to like hand that over or quote unquote clear the shelf, right? But it also made me super grateful. And that's the other thing that kind of comes out of all this. Like you find gratitude. I found gratitude in the fact that all the memories I had, all the cool people I met, all the stuff I learned, all the stuff I was able to teach other people during the pandemic because we taught pizza classes online and we taught stuff, the cool merch that came out of the fact that I wanted to make like clothes and merch that were kind of similar to pizza shops and these like pizza ideas. And it's crazy because it's like I'm coming up with more merch now and I'm doing some more t-shirts and I'm like, oh, I want to continue this trend of having like a pizza themed shirt every time I do a drop. So like I'm coming up with like another pizza shirt and I'm like, yeah, like maybe this was also part of it. And every city I go to now, like I try the pizza, I've met cool people in it who I'm still friends with. And so it kind of served its purpose for that period of my life. And like everybody always says, like it's a reason, a season, or a lifetime, like why you meet someone or why you may do something or why you may like pick up a hobby, right? There's a reason for it. Maybe there's a season for it, or maybe it's supposed to come with you and carry with you for a lifetime. So I try to like keep that in mind, but yeah, getting this gratitude and letting go of what you no longer need, I don't know, like it just helps you develop a greater appreciation for the things in your life that like truly matter or the things that helped bring you to this point or helped bring you here. It lets me be more present. It lets me be more mindful. And ultimately, it leads to a greater sense of joy and greater sense of fulfillment. And, it helps me realize these things about myself that I'm ready to move on from. And also helps me be more mindful of how I may be showing up isn't the best version of me or is like this old version of me. And so, yeah, like back to this board and the questions, you can ask yourself, what physical possessions or clutter can I release? What fears or anxiety do I want to release? What things are, even though like I think imposter syndrome is like kind of made up because it's like another thing that like they tell us is wrong with us. So like we don't achieve stuff and like we have to buy more things. I have like a whole thing about imposter syndrome. I'm not going to get into that now, but like, how are you having imposter syndrome in your life, I guess? Or how are you caring about what other people think? Or how are you letting other people's kind of beliefs of you or what you were supposed to be or what they thought you were supposed to be show up now and it's kind of dictating like how you're moving and shaking throughout the world? What limiting beliefs of self-doubt do you have? Where should we let those go? How are you going to let those go? Where are they showing up in your life? What do you want to let go of? What regrets? What past mistakes? What shame that you're holding on to that you want to let go that's like holding you back right now? Ultimately, like what in your life is no longer bringing you joy? Is it your career? Is it your clothes? Is it your hair? I just got my hair cut today. Is it where you live? Is it your friendships? Is it your habits? Is it your hobbies? Maybe your defense mechanisms. I don't know, your reactions or your non-reactions when you're not kind of like stepping up or stepping in or speaking up for yourself or setting boundaries. So like, where are these things holding you back? Where are they not bringing you joy? Where are they not bringing you fulfillment? And kind of create a list. You can start by like journaling. You can meditate. You can close your eyes. You can think of these things. You can write them down. I guess the best thing to do would to be kind of like just free write and free dump all this stuff down. Write it all down on a piece of paper. Write it all down in your journal. And then from there, you can go and like deep dive and answer the questions and kind of see what themes are coming up. And, you know, just kind of remember this is a process, and self-discovery and self-growth is a process. And if you're not growing, you're dead. Just like look at flowers or plants. If they're not growing, they're done. Growth is like a thing and it needs to happen. Whether this stuff is physical objects, whether it's habits, whether it's beliefs, whether it's relationships, it's important to clear the shelf, you know, from time to time so more stuff can come into your life. And what I would do, well, what I did was I made a list of all this stuff, right? I wrote it down, did whatever. And I'm going to share like my list with you. I made a vision board. And then I took that vision board, I put like my unvision board next to my vision board, put them next to each other to be like, this is where I am right now, and this is what I want to become. And again, I make vision boards for like everything. I probably overdose with them and overdo it. I have them for like how I want to feel. I have them for how I want to look. I have one right now for like my wardrobe. I have one for how I want like my YouTube to look like. I have one for, you know, how I wanted to like redecorate our space. I kind of do it up, but whatever. I have one on my phone for how I want to feel, like my mood, like that kind of, whatever. It's what I do. It's fine. You know, that's what I'm telling myself anyway. What else do I got here for you? Give you an example. When you release these things, don't dwell on the negative. Okay. So for an example, instead of saying, I don't want to be anxious anymore, you can say, I would like to cultivate mental peace, calm, and relaxation. If you don't want to overthink anymore, I would say, I am creating a space where I stay in the present, I enjoy the moment, and then I think about the good and just move on. Instead of like being one of those people who maybe like overthinks and replays the conversations of what happened last week at Friday night when you hung out with your coworkers over and over in your head to be like, oh man, I shouldn't have said that. Why didn't I say that? No one even cares that you said it. So yeah, that's what we got going on with this. When it comes to kind of breaking up with yourself and taking this even a step further, you can ultimately take this vision board, and that's the part that I've done. And I probably should have waited until I made this video to do that part, but whatever, here we are. You can take that vision board and you can just rip it up. And that's what I did. So I got to the point where I was kind of like, I wanted to have it out. I wanted to look at it. I wanted to see it in comparison next to the stuff I wanted and the stuff I was creating and calling in for myself. And then after a few weeks, I kind of did this like little ceremony with myself and this like ritual, which you can do. I like got a mood going, put on some music. I lit some candles, the Donna's candles. You can get them at the Donna's.shop if you want. We had a release candle and I have a manifesting candle. So I lit the release candle. Yeah, got to work. And I really like stared at that thing. I read out my list out loud. And then I kind of just like went to town, like ripping it up and really ripping it up into little pieces. And I was kind of like, I'm done. I am releasing this. I am moving on from these crappy behaviors. I still have them written down on the list so I can revisit in a year or a couple of months. I can look back and be like, oh yeah, you actually did it. Like, oh wow, you were like that? I don't even remember even you being like that. And now I have my vision board and now I have the things that I want. And then I kind of had a little ritual and, you know, thing with my manifesting candle and my vision board and kind of like setting that and putting that out into the universe. So that's what we got for this session. I really hope this helped. Follow, like, subscribe. I will see you on the other side, and sound off in the comments so I know what you got going on and how this might have helped you or how it didn't. Okay, bye.